Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to be playing a deck that I've been calling Crobat Checkmate. I found this deck scrolling through Limitless results and someone did decent at a good size online tournament with it, so that's where I got the idea from, and it's pretty cool. I was working on it before Prismatic Evolutions, but the new set just makes it better. Budew, of course, is the big card from the new set. I think it improves this deck like a lot. It's a baby Pokemon with 30 HP and free retreat. It also has a free attack that does 10 damage and says your opponent can't play item cards from their hand during their next turn. Item lock is super strong and it buys us an extra turn or two that we need to kind of set up our checkmate strategy. Now I added Black Belt's training so that Bloodmoon could knock out Pokemon V, but that's not how the card works. Black Belt's training says your active Pokemon does 40 more damage to your opponent's Pokemon EX. This card could probably just be cut for a Kieran or a second Dusclops or something like that. It would let Crobat do potentially 100 damage to EX Pokemon, which could definitely help with the strategy of this deck. So the main piece that makes this deck work is this Crobat. It has an attack for 3 colorless energy that says it does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if we take a knockout with this attack, we get to take 2 extra prize cards. So this can take 3 prizes on a single prize Pokemon or 4 prizes on a Pokemon EX or V. We have our other 2 attackers that are Luxray with an ability if we're behind in prizes, we can just put it in play without evolving it, and for 1 reversal energy it does 180 damage, and then Bloodmoon with the ability that its attack cost is 1 colorless less for each prize our opponent has taken, and for 5 colorless energy it does 240 damage. So usually we're going to end up using 3 Dusknoirs throughout the game, a Luxray attack or a Bloodmoon attack, and 1 Crobat attack. In an ideal world, we would set up our board, use Luxray to take 2 prizes somehow, and then on the next turn use Dusknoir to set a Pokemon EX or V to 30 HP or less, and then use Crobat to take 4 prizes on it. That's kind of why it's a checkmate deck, because we're not super concerned with what our opponent's doing. We're just trying to get our board set up in a way that we can take these big like 4 prize turns. I find this deck does work a lot more often now that we have Budew, because we can just slow the game down so much that we can buy like sometimes 4 or 5 turns to set up our board and get to a spot that our opponent really doesn't stand a chance. We also have a 101 Pidgeot in here that lets us grab any card out of our deck. It's just insane. It is pretty important to get this set up when we have access to it, but I have definitely won games that it was prized in. Feather Ball is also really insane in this deck because it can get Zubat, Crobat, Pidgeot, and Budew, so that is a nice touch of just free Pokemon search is always really good. Also, shout out to the channel members, thank you so much, and yeah, this deck will be much easier to explain during the game, so let's get into it. Alright, this first game we are up against a Greninja deck. They also started their Budew, which is really lucky. That's unfortunate for us because this deck is extremely reliant on item cards, and we did prize our own Budew, which would help a ton in this situation. Now, this hand is pretty awkward, like I said, because we prized the Budew, and we really have nothing that we can do, so our opponent's going to item lock us, but we probably wouldn't be able to do anything anyway until we top deck Rare Candy, and then we would have been able to get out Pidgeot and get rolling. So this is kind of unfortunate. Now I was a little concerned about benching the Pidgeot or the Pidgey at first, because I imagine my opponent was going to just build up to Greninja's second attack in the background and then stop item locking on the turn that they could use it. But it seems like their hand is pretty bad as well, so we just get into kind of a passing war here. That's why I have this on a little bit faster of a speed than normal. They get down a Rotom. I was really hoping that they were going to use it, but now at least they're doing damage to their own side, so that is nice for us. Damage building up on this Rotom will make our win condition a little bit easier with the Crobat. So that's ideally that would be the 4 prizes that we end up taking. The Rotom, if we could get that to 30 or less HP, we can knock it out with the Crobat and then use 2 Dusknoirs to knock out 2 of their evolving basics, or a Dusknoir and a Dusclops, because we could knock out like Frostlass with Dusknoir and Budew with the Dusclops. But not too sure if that's going to end up happening or not, because this item lock is pretty frustrating. We do get into this skateboard that is the exact card that I needed to be able to knock this Budew out and hope that I can get out of item lock next turn. I did slow the game down to 2 times now, since we're no longer getting item locked. At least that was just like a lot of passing. It was pretty boring, so I wanted to speed it up. Here I expect my opponent to get Rare Candy Greninja and then hit into me for 170. And at this point I just kind of expected that I was going to end up losing the game. But they do end up using Rotom, which gives me a little bit of, you know, light at the end of the tunnel. Now I would really love to get into my own Budew here and maybe bring up this Arven if I could, and item lock trap that while I can set up my own board. Because like I said, they're getting pretty low on HP, and this can be a really awkward part of this deck, is trying to time the damage so that we can get a Pokemon down to 30 or less HP. And that would be pretty perfect on the Rotom. The Frostlasses make that kind of awkward because it's 40 damage back and forth, which is going to make that really hard to happen. But if I hit it once, yeah, I don't think that can happen actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, if I hit it once with Budew and then 40 more damage would leave it at 40 HP. So I'd have to pop a Dusclops and Defiance Band the Budew to hit the Rotom for 40 instead of 10, and then have it be at 10 HP when it comes back to me. But I think I'm just fine with trapping it in the active for a turn or two and grabbing that 2 prizes just whenever it gets knocked out by the Frostlasses. I do play the Nest Ball for Zubat just to kind of thin it out of the deck, and it would be nice. It is technically possible for us to win the game next turn, so that's definitely something I want to have him play. It's kind of weird with this deck. You really never know when you're going to get lucky and just like draw insane off of PokéStop, but this hand is definitely not looking the greatest, especially with that top deck. I definitely thought that card did more damage to V's, but it does not at all. Now here I'm just going to end up item locking again. I should Pidgeot search for something. I think I end up grabbing a Dusknoir and evolving to it. Maybe not. I'm pretty sure I do though. I decided to evolve to it just to have it in play. I normally like to hold these kind of combos, especially against a deck like this that could potentially play TM Devo, but I think I have a better chance of pulling the combo off if I put this Dusknoir in play, even though that does turn out to be a mistake because my opponent has all these super low HP Pokemon. So I really don't want to hit any of them for 130 damage because I have to be behind in prizes to keep the reversal energy active. So I need Dusclops. I need the middle evolution, not the final evolution. That does end up being really lucky though that they flipped that heads. If they didn't flip that heads, it would have been really awkward for me. I don't think there would have been a way to win the game this turn. But now that they took that extra prize, what I can do is get a Dusclops and a Crobat. Candy Crobat and Dusclops is all I need. So I thin the Bloodmoon out of the deck, and since I hit Ultra Ball and Stretcher, I should be able to get all those cards. All I need to grab is Rare Candy, and then I can Ultra Ball here for I can Stretcher for Crobat and Ultra Ball for Dusclops. And I can just Ultra Ball away whatever. The Black Bell, I'll never need that anyway. And then I can do 50 damage to the active Pokemon with the Dusclops, putting myself behind in prizes to activate the reversal energy. And now the active has less than 30 hit points, so I just use Crobat's second attack here, and yeah, take 3 prizes. I could have even taken 4 prizes on that turn because the Dusknoir, I never ended up using the Dusknoir, but yeah. Alright, on to the next game. Now this is a long game, but I think it's really, really good and kind of showcases how this deck can win from ridiculous positions now that Budew is a card that we have access to. Alright, so here I'm just, using my PAF, and I definitely want to get down Budew because item lock can really mess with Ancient Box. But I kind of see why Ancient Box did so well at that one Japanese tournament, because just them starting this Grape Tusk into my Budew is really threatening. Like, there's only so much time I can buy if my opponent's milling 4 cards every turn, which is kind of interesting. I never thought of it in that way. I just figured that they have the Petron to get into the active spot, and then they could just manually attach twice to a Roaring Moon and make it really awkward for Budew decks. One thing that can be kind of like, it's not really annoying, but it's kind of weird and unintuitive to do with this deck is reversal energies are not very important to hold on to in most matchups. A lot of the time you only need 1, and if you plan on attacking with Luxray or Bloodmoon, 2 of them might be needed, but a lot of the time with any deck that uses Dusknoir, you can get the prize cards down to 1 to use Bloodmoon for free, so it's usually 1 or 2 reversal energies that the deck ends up needing to attack, and then the other ones just end up getting milled off PokéStop or used to retreat like I'm going to this turn. The one kind of unfortunate, or another kind of unfortunate thing is there's no good way to find supporter cards in the deck. Like, I would love to add like Lumineon, but the bench space is too tight, and Pokegears would be nice, but the deck space is extremely tight, because if you like, the one card that seems the most cuttable of the cards is the Trekking Shoes, but that's kind of the engine of the deck, is the Trekking Shoes combined with Fezandipiti, so they're not very cuttable. It ends up being super risky if we start cutting like Trekking Shoes. It can just make the deck too clunky, because we need a way to draw into other cards off PokéStop, and like switching them out 4 for 4 to Pokegear wouldn't be that good, because the deck does play Iono, and I don't know, if it played Research, then Pokegears might be worth it, but with Iono it just makes it kind of awkward, because there's a lot of games where we end up lower on prizes at the beginning of the game and we don't even want to Iono ourselves. So yeah, maybe the Arvens could be researches, but especially in this Budew format, I like having a way to find Rescue Board, a non-item way to get out of the active. Now, them using this Great Tusk really is unfortunate, because they milled 2 Iono there. So that like very much limits the draw for the rest of the game. And now I just have to Budew into them again. Like, there's not really much else I can do. I was hoping to get into a Rare Candy for Pidgeot off the PokéStop, but I did not. But them hitting 2 Ancient Booster Capsules off the PokéStop is really nice. That is one card that I was extremely worried about in this matchup. Now, I think they're down 3 at this point, at least 2. So I have 1 Lost Vacuum to deal with one of them. And Lost Vacuum, I find a lot of the times I did end up using it, it was to get rid of my own PokéStop so that I could use PokéStop 2 times in one turn. And my opponent does what a lot of players do. All they had to do was keep milling there, and it would have put me in a really awkward spot. I think I might have won the deck out race if they did that. I don't know. No, they definitely would have won if they could mill every turn, because they're milling 4 and I'd only be doing 1. But that's kind of my plan right now, is to just Budew them until they deck out. I'm really hoping they can't find their boss. I'm pretty sure at this point during the game, I was remembering the game that I played before this one, that I played against Lost Box, and they hit their boss's order off like the PokéStop they used turn 1 or turn 2. And so here I'm thinking that they don't have access to boss's order at all, which it's not in the discard pile, spoiler alert. And that is going to make this, you know, really tough, because if they can boss up Fez and I can't find a switch, or I'm forced to use Iono to find an energy or a switching card, that is just going to be kind of unfortunate, because I don't want to put their cards back in their deck. At this point, I'm just thinking that if I item lock for every turn for the rest of the game, I'll eventually knock out the Greninja and they'll be able to attack a couple times. Well, now that they use this Explorer's Guidance, I'm pretty much good to go. They do spend a while on this. I think the video should be speeding up more kind of soon, but yeah, that's my plan at this point, is item lock until they deck out. Like I said, I think that they don't have access to boss's order, which of course, like I said earlier, they do. I should have noticed, maybe I just noticed then when I looked through the discard pile. I might have prized my Pidgeot as well, actually. I don't know why I wouldn't Ultra Ball for it there. If it was in the deck, I could get rid of Black Belt's Training and Bloodmoon. Yeah, and there we see it. There is the boss's order. That is unfortunate. Oh yeah, Pidgeot is prized this game. I forgot about that, because I would definitely grab it off of this Ultra Ball and just Pidgeot for a switching card. That would basically like win me the game on the spot. But instead I grab a Dusknoir, mostly to get out of the deck, but I can evolve it and use it if I want to. And I'm hoping to draw into Reversal Energy or Switch. Rescue Board looked like it was either in the discard pile or in the prizes as well. Prime Catcher would not really be ideal here, because I don't want to bring up any of these Pokemon they can attack with any single one of them. So yeah, also should have evolved into the Dusknoir there. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have showed them what Crobat did. Like, if they don't know what it does already, there's no reason for me to like just show them exactly what it does. But yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. Also, as you can see, I hit Prime Catcher off of the PokéStop as the only switching card. The reason I didn't hit the PokéStop before the Iono as well is because I think almost all of my energy were in the deck, and I really didn't want to melt energy cards. I was hoping to just draw into switcher energy off the Iono. I thought I had pretty good odds. Actually, I did have really good odds to just draw into an energy card. But now I bring up this Roaring Moon just because it's another card they have to play in order to make it work, like to attack with it. They have to Sada. They're down all their energy. I probably should have said that earlier. They're out of energy card. Oh no, they're not out of energy cards. They play 8 energy. I forgot about that. They only had 1 energy left, but they weren't finding it. That's why I brought up the Greninja. And I kind of thought that it was prized. That's why I was going to item lock them and hope that they deck out. But there, as you can see, they must have a Sada in hand because they Greninja'd away an energy. But no, they have an 8th energy card. So now I'm down Counter Catcher and Prime Catcher. But if I played another Gust card, I would just win the game off of it, which would be really nice. And we hit the reversal energy, so it was 4 cards deeper in the deck than we really wanted it to be, unfortunately. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to Dusknoir, knock out this active Roaring Moon, and then my plan is to Dusknoir the benched Roaring Moon and knock it out with Crobat and go down to 2 prizes and bench another Duskull, and then next turn try to Crobat again. That was my original plan, but they end up doing something really weird. They promote Greninja at some point, which is just a mistake. They obviously don't know this deck list. It's really obscure, but I don't have any real threats on my bench. There's like no reason to think that promoting your Roaring Moon or even Great Tusk would be that bad of a thing. But since they did promote this Greninja, it does take me a little bit, and I am really unsure what exactly was correct here. But they are down all their energy now. There's no way they play 9 energy. As you can see, I'm really hesitating here. I end up Night Stretching for Budew because I really just need to buy time at this point. My opponent is really far ahead, and yeah, this is probably generally not a very good matchup for this deck. Their Pokemon have a really awkward amount of HP for single prize Pokemon. This deck really thrives against 2 prize decks and decks that use like Squawkabilly. Usually if a deck has a Squawkabilly on the bench, the games are really easy to win because that only requires 1 Dusknoir and then Crobat, and you can take 4 prizes on it. Usually between Luxray and another Dusknoir, like you can knock out almost anything in the game, so you can figure out the first 2 prizes pretty easily in those types of matchups. So I'm going to item lock the Greninja till it has 30 HP left, and then I'm going to use Dusknoir on the Roaring Moon, Crobat to take 3 prizes on the Roaring Moon, and then on the next turn, I'm going to use Crobat again because I'm going to set up another Zubat, and yeah, they shouldn't be able to win the game unless they can boss up my Fezandipiti, and they should only play 1 boss card, and it's in the discard pile, so they need Palpat and Pokegear, which is certainly possible because they have like almost their whole deck in their hand. But I attached the Defiance Band, forgetting that there's 10 base damage on Itchy Pollen, and now I just lost myself the game, which is really unfortunate. I just needed to wait one more turn to attach this Defiance Band. Also, what I could do here is PokéStop and try and hit the Lost Vacuum in my deck, which I don't even try for, which is a pretty big mistake. I do end up using the Crobat to take 3 prizes. Yeah, I definitely should have tried to Lost Vacuum the Defiance Band away, so I should have used PokéStop there. I didn't. I messed up a lot in this game. I played so many games with this deck, not to necessarily get winning games, but to get good games, and I probably have like 6 or 7 recorded games where I just Budew my opponent going second and they never attack me a single time. So, and I played this game a lot on stream yesterday. There's 2 different streams with games of this deck. Those games are really, really good. So I definitely recommend checking that out. I probably give better commentary than I am right now as well, but I was hoping to use one of those games and get a new game after the stream. But like I said, Budew just completely bodied my opponents, and then the games that I recorded during the stream ended up being corrupted, so I couldn't use those games, unfortunately. Now here I Nest Ball, see the Lost Vacuum, realized that I could have at least PokéStopped and tried, like, had a chance to win the game. I don't know, so I definitely messed that up, which is unfortunate. Losing these really long games like this always feels so bad. Like, these are the ones that I would really like to win, but I have no way to win it. I do Lost Vacuum away the PokéStop to try and hopefully they won't be able to get enough ancient Pokemon in the discard pile, but they give me the thumbs up there, and I went down to 4 cards in deck like an idiot. I see that. They Sada, and I concede. Yeah, that game was really frustrating to lose, but my opponent played well. That's how you play against item lock. You just wait, and eventually your opponent is going to have to break the item lock at some point, or in that case, I would have had to knock out the Greninja, and then they'd be able to just promote their attacker. The one thing they were doing that you should avoid doing against item lock is they kept playing their Explorer's Guidance supporters and hitting the PokéStop. At a certain point, you want to just keep the cards in your deck. Your opponent's probably not going to item lock you forever, and by doing that, they just opened up the win condition of me item locking them so they couldn't Super Rod or Pal Pad to add cards back to their deck and letting me win the deck out war. The boss did, luckily for them, get them out of the item lock, but I should have really never had that opportunity. They should have just started passing at a certain point. There was really no reason to keep getting cards in the discard pile after they got their energy in there to use Sada. But yeah, that is the deck. There are a couple things I would really like to have in this deck. One is definitely more Gust. The second thing would be like a Turo or something like that, just a way to pick up Pokemon or more ways to move Pokemon out of the active. And a second Budew would be really nice, as well as just more ways to draw cards like researches or something like that. This is a slightly different list. It's just -1 Trekking Shoe for a second Dusclops. Dusclops is very important against certain decks because those low HP Pokemon, you can't use Dusknoir to set them up for Crobat. You need to only do 50 damage with Dusclops. So yeah, it is a pretty important card, and 2 of them is probably preferred, even though I was playing 1 and just hoping that I wouldn't prize it in the games that I needed it. Yeah, that's the deck. Like or dislike, comment, subscribe. Take care and have a good one.